Alright guys, welcome back to F1 News. More drama at Abu Dhabi, this time on track with Lewis Hamilton, George Russell and Max Verstappen all nearly coming together in the pit lane during the second practice session today. Russell says, what's Verstappen doing? Why does he feel the need to try and overtake in the pit lane in that scenario, blaming Verstappen for these antics? Verstappen then says, no, it was their fault. The Mercedes guys tried to squeeze me into the wall. Who's right on this one? Why so much drama for just a practice session? Very much intrigued to your perspective on the incident in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Of course, not the only drama of the day, because Toto Wolff, of course, had to comment on the Christian Horner Lewis Hamilton drama that we talked about yesterday, where Horner basically said that Hamilton's team, potentially his father, had reached out to Horner about a potential move to Red Bull. Hamilton then said, no, it was actually the other way around. Horner reached out to me regarding my interest. Toto Wolff then says, I just don't know what drives this guy, meaning Horner. We just don't understand his thinking to come up with these type of things. What's happened is that Christian, through an agency that we work with, wanted to have Lewis's contact details to speak about the seat, which might be the wrong number that Toto Wolff gave Horner that Hamilton then didn't see for several months. That's how the whole thing went. It was Christian inquiring about Lewis's availability. I just don't know what drives him to come out with this stuff. He also commented on the Anthony Hamilton thing, that apparently Hamilton's father had reached out to Christian Horner, and Wolff says, you know, look, you've got to wonder who's made up this story. He hasn't been involved since 2010. I think the other one, i.e. Horner, wanted a bit of media attention by mentioning Lewis's name. If that's what he needs, let him do it. Now, the other big story, though, actually, regarding Mercedes and Red Bull was this from McLaren confirming they will renew their partnership with Mercedes high-performance powertrains all the way until 2030. This is very interesting because, well, how have they come to this conclusion? Which of many possible reasons is the primary reason for this decision? They were already with Mercedes for the near future, I think even into 2026, but they were extending that yet further. This comes at an interesting time because Zak Brown apparently recently went to meet Christian Horner and the Red Bull powertrains guys to potentially discuss a deal there. Now, it might be that Red Bull have said, you know what, we don't really want to do customer teams yet, especially after 2026. They'd prefer to just do themselves an AlphaTauri Racing Bulls, whatever it's going to be called, for, you know, that period of time. But also, did Zak Brown go look at the development rate of the Red Bull powertrains project and think, you know what, this isn't as good as what Mercedes is showing us on the other side? It's also interesting for McLaren because, sure, right now they've got a better grasp of this year's aero concept than Mercedes have presently, and therefore they can use their engine to great effect. And there are rumours that Mercedes are, well, potentially going to be able to operate at a higher power map for the next couple of seasons, and certainly into 2026. We believe, at least the rumour is, that Mercedes have the most promising powertrain for that year. So McLaren, either they couldn't find a better option, or they are firmly with the belief that Mercedes have the strongest power unit on the grid, and that will continue to be the case in 2026 and beyond. I guess the question, if you're a McLaren fan, is, sure, for now, they're doing well with the aero side, but in the longer term, can they maintain that, right? As a customer team to Mercedes up until 2030, what are the chances that they win a championship with this setup? It's, without a works team, because let's be honest, from 2028, it's plausible we have 7 works teams on the grid. Mercedes, Ferrari, Alpine, of course, Red Bull powertrains is one good example. Potentially Audi as well, of course. Potentially General Motors is on the grid as well. And then let's not forget Honda with Aston Martin. So, there'll be lots of works teams working with an engine, and, they all can integrate it very well when you've got your engine and the aerodynamics and everything involved working in the same field. Now, sure, McLaren understand very well the Mercedes powertrain and the Mercedes engine. They've worked with, the cooling requirements and all these things, worked with it for many years. But, there's lots of possible reasons why McLaren have made this decision. Whether it's going to be good or bad for the long term, that's a question, but clearly McLaren believe this is the strongest power unit that they can reasonably get for the upcoming years. Also, some questions on the sprint races. There were some headlines of the F1 Commission meeting. We've heard the rumours about tyre blanket ban getting scrapped. We've heard rumours about the fact that from 2026 or from 2025, that's only when you start to be able to develop the 2026 aero development. So that might limit Red Bull in terms of they can't just stop next year's development halfway through the season and focus fully on 26. They will have to, at least wait until 2025. So that could reset the playing field to some degree. A couple of other things, but a big one really on the sprint races. this is the format that has been backed by team principals. To be fair though, the TPs did also go on to say F1 should just listen to the fans on this rather than making their own mind up. But what they're going to do now is FP1 Friday, then sprint quali rather than race quali, then the sprint on Saturday, then race quali on Saturday, and then the race on Sunday. I think this is better. It also opens the door to potentially open Parc Fermé again after the sprint, so teams can make changes for the race, which I think is good. At the same time, though, if you're in the sprint race, especially if they try and do some sort of reverse grid format, which is what they are talking about right now, I kind of hope they don't. But if the sprint doesn't count towards the World Championship points and it only counts towards like a separate sprint championship, then sure. But you know, if you're going to reverse the grid, that is going to very much encourage collisions and crashes and stuff like that to occur. And if that is the case, then you've got race quali just afterwards, and you cannot afford to crash in the sprints and not be able to qualify for the race on Sunday, which, you know, that was one of the things that having the race quali on Friday fixed, was that at least if you crashed in the sprints, you had overnight to fix your car for the race. Whereas now it might, you know, promote very conservative driving in the sprint again because you can't afford to crash because then you won't be able to qualify for the race. So a few pros and cons. Probably this is better than what we currently have. Let's talk about this weekend though. AlphaTauri, and I think Haas as well, have some upgrades here. AlphaTauri have a big floor upgrade, which I guess is going to intertwine them slightly more with their Red Bull preparation for next year. Rumour has it it's going to be worth between 1 to 2 tenths of a second. Is that going to be enough to make moves in the constructors? That's a question. But let's talk about FP1. Interesting session, largely because, well, 2 Red Bull guys, the main drivers, weren't in the car. They had 2 rookies in the cars at the same time. They were also changing around their engineers and stuff. I'm pretty sure GP wasn't there. They had one of their other engineers in to do the race engineering stuff. So Red Bull playing around with a few things, trying to strengthen their team, I suppose, even further. A couple of pieces of drama on track, one of which was, again, Carlos Sainz. You've got to say there's a consistent trend of Sainz just getting in the way in practice sessions and not being particularly good at getting out of the way if someone's doing a fast lap. And Piastri says, classic Carlos, just sitting in the middle of the road. Nothing's changed, I see. And we also got this moment where I'm pretty sure Williams and Sargent were fined like €5,000 for this because Jack Doohan, who was in the Alpine, was on a fast lap. And, well, he had to really abort mission and get out of Sargent's way here because Sargent was told way too late that he was coming, and then by the time Sargent tried to move over, you know, they almost had a big incident here. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. This, though, was the top 3. Russell P1, Drugovich 2nd, and Ricciardo 3rd. So what's going on here? So many rookies that, of course, it's going to be interesting, but a very impressive performance from Felipe Drugovich, no doubt about it, especially because he was about 3 tenths clear of Lance Stroll, his teammate in that competitive Aston Martin during the session. Now, I'm pretty sure Stroll was on a good lap, and I think I saw some footage of him getting blocked round about the final corner by a Red Bull, and apparently that lap would have been good enough for P2. But even so, given the fact that, you know, okay, maybe extenuating circumstances with Drugovich outperforming Stroll, it's still quite impressive, right? That Drugovich was even that competitive, and being at P2 in an Aston Martin in your first practice session is sending something of a statement. Robert Schwartzman as well had a good outing in the Ferrari. He was, you know, barely a quarter of a tenth off Carlos Sainz. And we see Fred Vesti in the Mercedes, Jack Doohan in the Alpine, Porsche in the Alfa Romeo, Pato O'Ward in the McLaren, of course. He's a great driver, I think, in IndyCar. Jake Dennis, Isaac Hadjar. So the Red Bull was quite off the pace, but I imagine they told their boys just to be sensible here. Zach O'Sullivan in the Williams, and then 2 Haas drivers with Ollie Behrman ran about a tenth off the pace of Kevin Magnussen. Of course, still only 17, I'm pretty sure, Behrman. So hopefully a bright future ahead of him. FP2, though, we got a Ferrari in the wall, and this is, well, potentially not good. I don't know how much damage there is to the rear of this car, but as you can see, there's quite a lot. I don't know if this gearbox would have survived this, but if it didn't, there could be, hopefully not for Sainz, but there could be another penalty on the way. It was an interesting crash, actually, because go around turn 1, turn 2, going into turn 3, very fast right-hander. These cars running low to the ground, they bottom out in that corner, and bottom out pretty severely as well. The issue that Sainz had is that it should be easy flats, but he went fast right, bit of dirty air from the car in front, but I think mainly the car just bottomed out, lost downforce, and then he was in a spin straight into the wall. So yeah, not a good crash for Sainz because, I mean, free practice too, sure, last time out in Las Vegas, it wasn't his fault, but this time, he either could have taken it easier. I don't know. To be honest, I don't think this is his fault either. I just think the setup of the car, pretty sure that they complained as well during FP1. Like the drivers, I think Schwartzman was saying that the car was bottoming out and stuff. So they didn't fix that, or they didn't fix it enough, and Sainz straight in the wall here. So that caused the first red flag. We then got another red flag because Nico Hülkenberg was then immediately in the wall as well. He kind of spun on the curb at turn 1. Also, I think his car must have bottomed out slightly, lost the rear, bit too much revs, really, and then he just went round into the wall, broke his rear wing. So, yeah, already just drama again, more red flags. And then we got the incident which we mentioned earlier on, and this is the Verstappen versus the Mercedes boys incident again. So, just to explain what's happening here, Verstappen did this in Brazil, you guys probably remember, just overtaking in the pit lane, because at the moment, everyone's trying to get out onto the track at this point. Red Bull, because they have the first garage, he's quite a way back. He can't get out particularly early. He wants to get out. So this is Russell, closest to us. This is Hamilton further up. There's another car in front of Hamilton. So, you know, Hamilton and Russell, they're taking it easy. They obviously want to get out and do some laps, but, you know, everyone's very much congested, so they're just going to bide their time and say, all right, sure, we want to get out now to do some laps here, but Verstappen was clearly thinking, all right, let me, let me get out here right now. So what he does by the letter of the law is not, it's not against the rules. It's a pretty savvy thing to do, I guess, from Max here, but the question that many have, including the Mercedes boys, is, why? You know, I mean, maybe this is just what Max does. I mean, it is what he does because he literally did it. But, he's winning the championship by so many points. He's won every race, basically, this season, bar a couple. He's going to probably win this race this weekend as well. Like, what is it needed? No, just maybe relax a little bit, fall into line. That's what people might expect Max to do, but that's not what Max does. That's not how he operates. This camera guy at the right as well had to, like, quickly back out of it because Verstappen putting all the way to the right. Okay, he didn't really put the camera guy in much danger, but still, I mean, the camera guy wasn't expecting a Red Bull to come out there just a couple of meters away as he sneaks round the outside. So he gets past Russell, and then, Hamilton probably knows he's there and probably doesn't necessarily want to let Max go. And to be fair, you might say, oh, well, Hamilton should have just gone or gone faster or something, but there was a car in front of Hamilton as well. So it's like, what's he really meant to do? They're trundling out the pit lane. Verstappen decides he wants to get through, squeezes past Hamilton as well. Hamilton, not exactly, I wouldn't say Hamilton squeezed him really, but, they were definitely very close to each other. And it's just one of these things that seems unnecessary, right? And people will say, oh, well, Max, the stewards and stuff always give him the benefit of the doubt, and then he pulls off stunts like this. There's nothing wrong with what Max did at the end of the day. And it's the same thing that Alonso did, actually. Further back, Alonso pulled the same move on the inside. So, these guys, they're, wily guys, I suppose. They know the rules, they know what they can get away with, and therefore they do it. But I guess the question many have is like, okay, why is this needed? Okay, sure, they wanted to get the lap times in, but, Verstappen went for the round the outside in the pit lane overtake on two Mercedes to get some track position for a very, minor advantage. I just wanted to share what Max said on this, actually, because here's the quote, but when he was asked about this in the interview, he was actually quite, his wording was quite strong. Russell, of course, on the radio came out and said that he's crossing all the lines. Clearly, Russell wasn't happy with Verstappen's antics on this one. Probably felt like it was somewhat unneeded. But Max, he knows what's allowed in the rules. There's nothing technically wrong with what he did. And he blamed the Mercedes driver, said they were trying to squeeze him and we were limited on time. And, okay, sure, there was a slight gap in front of Hamilton that Verstappen eventually went for and got through. But it's not like he gained a massive amount of track position by these antics. But, wasn't particularly happy about the treatment, he seemed at least, from the Mercedes guys.
Definitely they have to move. I mean, they're all driving slow, and I want to go out because, we're all limited on time, and they just keep on driving in the middle. And then when I tried to pass, they tried to squeeze me in the wall. So, yeah, a bit silly.
So in the end, this was the top three at the end of FP2. Not as much representative running as I'm sure the teams would like, and FP3 will have to make up for that tomorrow morning. But there was also some drama on Charles Leclerc because it was spotted on his helmet this weekend that it says Grazie Ferrari, like thanks Ferrari, which made people think, is his contract over? Is he staying? Is he going? And Charles said, no, there's nothing, nothing to read into there. And I think then Will Buxton implied that his contract renewal is happening or is going to happen or something like this. But to our understanding, that's not the case, and Charles Leclerc will stay until the end of 2024, and then a contract renewal is probably going to happen. We'll see. But that's just a quick comment on that. Norris, though, P2, Verstappen, P3. These were the overall classifications. Verstappen, I'm pretty sure, overall, in terms of if you put all of his fastest sectors together, he would have had the fastest lap time. But he was struggling in Sector 3, bouncing of the car, bottoming out of the car, just balance in general wasn't great for Max, neither for Perez either, so some work for Red Bull to do, but the fact that they were so close with so many issues today, according to Verstappen, is pretty scary for the weekend, given this is pretty much qualifying pace, right? Leclerc P1 though, Norris and the McLaren look competitive yet again. Bottas was P4. The Mercedes, they weren't too far away, but Hamilton wasn't so happy with his day. Russell did get FP1, to be fair, to do a bit more preparation. But yeah, lots of work to do. Tough to say exactly what fuel loads people are running either, compared to the Alfa Romeos, for example, who like to do some lower fuel runs more than others sometimes do. And then, yeah, Carlos Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg out of the session much earlier than they would have anticipated. So potentially repercussions there. Like if Sainz's gearbox is actually damaged, you know, that could be another penalty, hopefully not for Sainz and Ferrari. But also, there's a big battle this weekend with Mercedes. It's funny, really, because probably I would say most Ferrari fans want Mercedes to beat them in the Constructors, because then you get extra wind tunnel testing time and CFD time. And the same the other way around. I think probably many Mercedes fans want Ferrari to beat them this weekend and secure second in the Constructors so they get more testing time. The teams, though, they want the prize money, and they also want their bonuses, because a lot of the bonuses of the drivers, but also of the staff, is tied to performance in the championship, and P2 over P3 is a big deal for a lot of these guys. So the teams want to get seconds, but I think a lot of the fans of teams kind of want their teams to get third. So maybe this Sainz crash could be good for Ferrari in the long run, if you see what I'm saying there. But very much interested in your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.